Our next speaker is Professor Marcelo Sternberg, who is an ecologist from the Department of Molecular Biology and Ecology of Plants at the Tel Aviv University. And he also serves as a chairman of the Israeli Society of Ecology and Environmental Sciences from 2010 and 2012. And also, Marcelo is a team leader of the biodiversity section at the Israeli Climate Change Information Center, which our ministry established a few years ago.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this interesting meeting and this challenging topic we are dealing with. Yossi and Gabriel, thank you for inviting me, and I hope to provide a local perspective as Israel being a key stopover on bird migration. So what's going on with our biodiversity, and particularly what's going on in times of uncertainty, as all climate change is about. We are talking about climate change and biodiversity. We've been listening about elements related to climate, changes in temperature, changes in rainfall, but particularly that also Pink has mentioned about the changes on extreme events. These extreme events definitely have a huge impact on the whole components of biodiversity. We consider from the genetic elements within the different populations, up to the ecosystem services, up to the biome and the community components of the natural systems. But particularly when talking about climate change, we definitely need to relate to the interactions within these all elements that they are accompanying the biodiversity element that we consider. But definitely these all relate to the ecosystem services, to all the elements we receive by granted by nature. The air quality we breathe, the water quality we drink, all these elements are elements we receive from our natural ecosystems, and we're receiving them for granted by free. But there's no free lunch on climate change issues, as you will see here. Now, how these relate to migration birds, that's a key question that we'll try to relate later on. We can learn from other migrating animals, like monarch butterflies, that we just last week there was a claim from the American government to take key issues as the population of the monarch butterflies has been a huge reduction in the last 20 years by 90% of the population. So we know that these changes are related combination of what we call the global changes, mainly land use change, the reduction of the areas where the larvae is feeding, mainly due to changes on GMOs in the areas in southeastern the United States, the disappearance of the plants that these larvae are feeding are definitely leading to this huge change of this particular species, a flag species that migrates. It's an insect that it actually immigrates over winter in Mexico, and with the huge impact it's having in this area. But we are looking on our region, this is particularly characterized as drylands, and drylands are actually characterized by the deficiency in water. And water that relates as well to rainfall, when it's coming, how is the rainfall season, when the season starts, how is the distribution of rainfall within the season, and how the changes within the years. That's a key issue. And our ecosystems are mainly limited by precipitation. But we heard about this morning as well, in our region, in the Middle East, the predictions are that we're going through an increase in temperature and a decrease in rainfall. This will definitely lead to a higher water deficit in our systems. But with the key issues about also the function of the natural systems is about the higher frequency of extreme events that will definitely lead to more water deficit. We are in a key area, as you may know, linking Europe, Asia, and Africa, and we are, say, luckily in our natural setup for the migrating birds. And we have a regional framework, the area that we relate to climate change issues, and as well land use. We cannot extend what's going on land use changes. We heard Leo's talk, and how these affect definitely bird migration. Our natural setup, Israel, is as a step over an area with very steep climatic gradient, and this steep climatic gradient definitely is a natural area of increasing unpredictability, and increasing unpredictability as soon as we go from the north to the south. But not only the land surface is one of that uncertainty, also our sea. If we consider the location of Israel in the eastern Mediterranean, we are in the most highest saline position in the Mediterranean. We are on the highest temperature in the area, in the seawater, and the lowest primary productivity. Definitely these all have a huge impact on biodiversity. Now, confronting what's going on climate change and global changes in general, there was an initiative led by the Ministry of Environmental Protection to know what's going on in our systems. So we got the challenge on what we can learn, what we know about the effect of climate change on biodiversity in Israel. So we combined a group of experts from different institutions, from different universities in Israel and different governmental institutions, and we went to the experts, in the three main ecosystems we have in our region, so aquatic ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystems, or marine ecosystems, combining both the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. I went to them to ask them what they think about the potential effects of climate change on the areas they are working. And we expended 230 questionnaires, which is the largest inquiry about climate change effect on biodiversity in Israel, and we got only 59 answers. And this is not surprising, we only got 59 answers, because many of them, the experts say, didn't have any knowledge to be able to provide a secure answer to what's going on. So there's a huge lack of knowledge. We have recently published, the team of the people who have been working recently published a paper on our findings, and those part of the findings are the one I'm going to present you today. This is a paper in press, and well, is on the web. We went to ask the people, the experts, which were the main climatic factors that were affecting biodiversity in our region. The answers I only present here, those who are high or very high significant relationships to the answers we got from the experts. Many of them were considered that actually rises in temperature, reduction in precipitation, as well as the increasing frequency of extreme events, floods and drought. They are one of the key drivers of the changes that we may expect in our region, in Israel. As well, changes in the phenology or elements on the climate that will definitely have an effect on the phenology of the organisms that they are living in our region. Then, as when we went to ask them how we can adapt, or can we do something on how to prevent these huge changes that we expect. Most of them said it was a huge need for developing a national strategy on how to cope with the uncertainty that we're expecting. Definitely the enforcement of a law on the natural systems that they have currently been damaged by us, and the importance of increasing ecological corridors as a secure area where animals can move and try to adapt to the new reality, and definitely other elements that are also considered here. The main result for the terrestrial ecosystems from the experts, we got that actually the increasing frequency of fire events We know that from the Carmel forest fire, that actually was a climate-driving event, because we have extremely dry winds, very low relative humidity, and the supertanker that was brought from the States to cope with this fire did nothing until the change of the breeze of the winds coming from the East Mediterranean changed the composition of the air humidity in the air, and then it was possible to put down the fire. But definitely, we also know about the effects of the drought. We are already seeing an important dieback of the forest, mainly on the southern part of the country, where we see a lot of tree mortality. Definitely this is related to drought. Consecutive years of drought are definitely affecting mainly the perennial vegetation. And extreme events, when we mentioned extreme events, last December we have an extreme event of snow, and we have hundreds or even thousands of trees that were killed by the snow. These trees are not adapted to extreme weight of snow, and they were killed. A very important element is definitely what we are seeing in our region, the land fragmentation and landfill changes. Land fragmentation is a key driver on the loose species in our region. When we went to the aquatic ecosystems, went to the experts, definitely this is the most severe ecosystems in Israel. Those are highly dependent on what's going on rainfall, on water availability, and the urban and agricultural activities are the main affecting this type of ecosystems. Temporary aquatic habitats, they're definitely expected to be lost, mainly, and the shrinkage of the temporal streams definitely as well are expected to have major impact on the biodiversity of the species living in these ecosystems. In the lake Kinneret, our only lake in the region, is definitely the littoral vegetation that we expect as well having a major impact because of the changes in the fluctuation of the level of the lake. Sorry. We go to the Eastern Mediterranean and we go to what's going on in the sea, on our Mediterranean Sea, and we know that the increasing temperature are already going on in our area. We see an increase of almost 2 degrees in our shores, and the combination of the invasions of fauna and algae that coming from the Red Sea are definitely changing the whole composition of our fishing communities, and as well as the algae communities. Now, if you go to fish in this area, at least 50% of the biomass of the catch is not from the Mediterranean, it's coming from the Red Sea or from the ocean, from the Indian Ocean. So it's completely changed on the composition of the sea. And as well, the accelerated erosion of the coastal rocky habits, that's also a key important as well for birds, are a major issue combined with overfishing, pollution, and what we call it coastal development, we say undeveloped. We know there has been developed, this is something that Israel has not been doing nothing in all these years concerning biodiversity. And the Minister for Environmental Protection, in charge, Uriel Safel, who is here with us, to develop the Israel National Plan on Biodiversity. And the key elements are here presented here. Education changes the current legislation, conservation of open landscapes, ecological corridors, strengthening water from nature, and all these elements are definitely stated, but not necessarily applied on reality. That's a missing gap, still from the knowledge that we were producing or we're asking for until the acting plant on the ground. This is not happening. Many elements here. So we definitely need to take an approach of no regret. Things that we know already that we can do, and we are not going to regret on that. So because we understand how the systems are working. One of the key issues on the no-regret activity is strengthening what we call it the ecological corridors. This is our key element. This is the map of the protected areas of Israel. This is the latest map presented to the Ministry of Interior that will probably, hopefully, secure some areas. We see here that all the areas that are naturally protected areas. We see the corridors in gray, and definitely these areas are key for migrating birds crossing over our region. Definitely this area, the strengthening and the prevention of land fragmentation are key elements if we want to preserve the birds succeeding going over our region. So we know something. We know definitely that the habitat loss and degradation are the primary immediate threats on natural ecosystem biodiversity in Israel. This is something we already know. We know as well that the combined effects of climate change, species invasion, and what we call it development, the increasing infrastructure, and the huge or the very important too much population growth we have here in our region definitely affected biodiversity and the sensitivity of our systems to biodiversity. And we also know that vulnerability of the ecosystem decreases with increasing connectivity among natural ecosystems and along environmental gradients. Definitely, we need this increasing connectivity among the different ecosystems to secure the migration birds in our region. As well, that's the last point, that securing these ecological corridors are critical for this. And we know that intact ecosystems are definitely more resilient to potential changes. So securing the natural areas, the natural landscape, the natural corridors will definitely provide some secure, under time of uncertainty, under the unknowns, what's going on. But definitely there are many unknowns. That's, I presented this one of the title of my presentation. Definitely we don't know which are the synergetic effects of climate change land use on biodiversity. That's something we don't know. How the interactions, how the changes in the long run will affect. We definitely don't know as well what are the synergetic effects of the bird species that are already here with the local organisms, the local vegetation, the local flora, the local fishes they feed on, or the local invertebrates, how they will change and how they will affect their stopover on getting more fat for continuing the flight. The lack, definitely we have lack of long-term data and the monitor, and even more, we have any data of empirical data, experimental data. Uncertainty, definitely towards how what's going on their overwinter sites. That's another component that we still don't know, and it's part of the unknowns that we would like to later on know. But we need to think about science policy, and here we have the chief scientist of the ministry, how this science policy prevents or allows us to reduce the vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, we know that we are confronting huge uncertainties. Definitely know that we are dealing with very complex element when dealing with biodiversity, as well that we are going to irreversible conditions. We are not going to go back what it was before. Things are continually moving, the systems are continually dynamic, and definitely we need urgency. Urgency needs, decisions need to be taken to try to recognize which are the ecosystem sensitivity and how this will definitely affect the migration birds that are going in our region. So we need to fill the gaps. And for filling the gaps, we need empirical knowledge that will allow us to provide a more wide picture of what's going on or what we may expect from the system. So we definitely need more research funds. I'm a researcher. Without funds, we can do nothing. And definitely the amount of money invested in Israel on climate change research is too little. So definitely we need research in all languages. That's the key driver to allow us to go on, to know, to fill the gap of our knowledge. The first step was taken by the Ministry of Environmental Protection with the creation of the ICAC, the Israel Climate Change Information Center, where I'm the team leader on the biodiversity, but was only the first step. We need the whole government, the whole ministry, all the other ministries to take a part in it. And it's not easy. They don't want. There is no political will on dealing with climate change in Israel. And this is something we need to know and we need to change. No will. It's not on the agenda. So it's definitely time for action. And time for action is to create a national plan. And definitely, because we're talking about climate change, it cannot only be national, it should be regional. For dealing with climate change, research. We definitely need the long-term monitoring and experimental work. Without that, we cannot say nothing. We cannot be serious in our work. Definitely, we need to secure the ecological corridors and reduce land fragmentation. These are key issues we want to secure. Are the birds securing the flight, go back from Europe, Asia to Africa and go back. And definitely, we know that the uncertainty will continue. We must deal with this component of uncertainty. But definitely, we should take things that are no direct action, things that we know definitely will secure and allow more resilience of the natural ecosystem. So, thank you, and well, look forward to the questions. No questions now.
Thank you, Marcelo. I think the political will arise. I guess in the last few hours, people are already arriving to Lima, to the UNFCCC, to the Climate Change Convention that is starting now. And next week, we are going to meet again in Paris for the new agreements on climate change and mitigation, and adaptation is on the table, and I think that there is no choice but to start to deal with the political will more seriously, also in Israel.